In town. here. put that to good use. At your service. Impossible. carry anymore. marry anymore. I can't. I am overburdened.
Afternoon.
So. Thank you. Thank you.
Not in town.
Neil.
You can't hide from me. I can't carry on. I am overburdened. I It's locked. I am overburdened. I can't. Afternoon. Adva- Yes, warrior. Evening.
Hello.
Afternoon. What is it? can't carry anymore. Yes? At last, the summit of Mount Ariat. Afternoon.
best resource out there. It has everything you need. Hey folks, this is Riker with a beginner guide for Diablo 2 Resurrected. If you're coming from Diablo 3 or another ARPG, or you just never were a Diablo 2 pro back in the day, or you're coming from any other game for that matter, we're going to highlight some of the key differences between Diablo 2 and some of the other ARPGs. We're going to go over game systems, we're going to talk some general strategy advice, and by the end of this video, you're going to feel confident in taking on the forces of hell, and you can migrate to following some more advanced guides and be well on your way to becoming a D2 pro. If you ever want to refer to any written guides, maxroll.gg is the best resource out there. It has everything you need to know to become a D2 pro. Now you'll see a lot of footage in this video that is showing old D2 and not D2 Resurrected. Don't worry, the game is the same, the engine is the same, D2R is just a fancy coat of paint. Now we're going to break up this video into 12 chapters, and you can reference the timestamps below to skip ahead to different chapters, or if you ever want to come back, bone up on a certain chapter, maybe you missed something, or more realistically, because this video is going to be so incredibly long, maybe you watch the first 2 chapters today, tomorrow the next 2, and you kind of go through it like a lesson plan. So let's start with Chapter 1, Skill Points. Every time you level up, you're going to gain a skill point to spend. There are also some quests that will award skill points. Every class has 3 skill trees, each representing some kind of different playstyle. You can choose to focus on one of these trees or mix and match however you want. Now your level will limit how many points you can allocate into a certain skill. You're going to need to level up in order to put that next point into it. But at high enough level, you can assign a maximum of 20 skill points to any given skill. Some items, however, will provide you with bonuses to skills, and that's going to let you go above that 20 cap. As a general rule, you're going to want to max out whatever is your main damage dealing skill. But you don't necessarily want to max out every skill that you put a point into. For some skills, you'll only want to put a single point into them, either because they're a prerequisite for other skills on the skill tree, or because just having that level 1 version of the skill meets your needs. Skills generally become more powerful with increasing point investment, but their mana cost, if they have any, tends to go up as well. The Sorceress's Warmth skill, which increases her mana regeneration by a huge 30%, is one of those 1-point wonder skills that even just 1 point into it helps a lot, and over time as you get gear that's going to add plus to all your skill levels, well, that's just going to benefit from that and help even more. Now, one thing to bear in mind is that skills are a finite resource. You are unlikely to be able to max out every skill that you put a point into. At level 99, the maximum level in the game, which, let's face it, most people won't reach, a character will have 110 skill points. For the average player, getting into the low 90s is quite an achievement. But don't worry, most builds are complete by that point, or even 10 or 20 levels before that point. Having 110 skill points versus 100 really isn't a huge advantage, especially when you're at a point where you don't even know where to put your skill points anymore. You're just throwing them away by that point. Now, some skills provide a synergy bonus to other skills. That means that allocating points into skill A may provide a bonus for skill B. So for example, the Sorceress's Blizzard spell receives a 5% damage buff for every skill point in Ice Bolt. In fact, for some skills, such as the Necromancer's Bone Armor, you're better off investing points into skills that grant synergy bonuses to Bone Armor rather than Bone Armor itself. That makes Bone Armor one of those skills that you want to put only a single point into. But the general lesson here is just check for synergies. Now, different skills can serve different purposes within your build. Some are damage dealers, some skills might be for crowd control, some are buffs, some are for mobility. Generally, you'll have one main damage dealer, maybe 2 in some builds. Diablo 2 has immunities. Monsters can have resistance to different elements, and at higher levels even immunities. So you can encounter a monster that is immune to fire damage, and if you're a fire build that has no way of dealing any kind of damage other than fire, well, you're in a bit of a pickle. Generally, most people will not get a secondary damage skill just to deal with that, but it's worth mentioning that some people like to play that way, where they don't skip any monsters and they don't rely on teammates, that they want to be completely self-sufficient and get through the content. And so for that reason, you might want to have another skill, but build guides in general don't recommend this. Now, some of these damage dealing skills are classified as attack skills, while others are classified as spells or caster skills. If your skill is a spell, a fireball or an assassin's trap, anything that's not attacking with your weapon, then all of the damage is coming from the spell itself, from the caster skill itself, and that's noted in the description. You see, in Diablo 2, your damage doesn't just globally scale off of your sheet damage or your weapon damage. You can have no weapon equipped at all, and your fireball is still a fireball that deals its maximum fireball damage. The other kind of skill is an attack, and this one is based off of your weapon damage. For example, the Barbarian's Whirlwind skill deals 50% of your regular attack damage. On to Chapter 2, Attribute Points. Every time you level up, in addition to a skill, you'll also gain 5 attribute points to allocate. Some quests will also reward attribute points. Now, every character has 4 attributes: strength, dexterity, vitality, and energy. And every attribute does the same thing for every class. Strength increases your damage with attacks. Dexterity increases your chance to hit an enemy, your attack rating, and it increases your chance to avoid being hit by an enemy. You see, in Diablo 2, when you make an attack, you're not guaranteed to hit your enemy. With every attack, there's a random chance that you miss your target, similar to Dungeons and Dragons. The higher your attack rating, the more likely you are to hit an enemy. And this is comparing your attack rating against the enemy's defense rating, similar to your to hit against AC. Or for our old school friends, are the THAC0. However, you can never have more than a 95% chance to hit or less than a 5% chance to hit, just like rolling a 1 or a 20 in D&D. Now, higher dexterity also increases your defense rating. The higher your defense rating, the more likely enemies are to miss you with an attack. We need to specify here though, attacks. Spells bypass this entirely. A spell will hit you as long as it physically connects with you. You need to move out of the way to avoid a spell. More dexterity will also increase your block chance with a shield. All physical attacks can be blocked with a shield. Different shields will innately provide different block chances, and higher dexterity will increase that block chance. Your block, however, can never rise above 75%, and that means that when you're hit with an attack, you have a 75% chance to take no damage. Vitality determines how much life you have, as well as how much stamina you have. What's stamina? Well, Diablo 2 has a run-walk toggle. You can either walk, or you can run. Running depletes your stamina, which will slowly regenerate once you stop running. Now, stamina will be a problem for you in the early game, but less so as you level up. Stamina potions and stamina shrines are always your friends. They'll give you infinite stamina for a short duration. Now, the other thing to be aware of is that while you're running, you are easier to hit. Your block chance gets reduced by 2/3, and your defense drops to 0, meaning any attack will have a 95% chance to hit no matter how much armor and defense you're stacking. That's why it's advised that melee characters not always be running, especially inside combat. Then lastly, energy determines how much mana your character has. Now, while you're free to allocate your attribute points however you like, you'll find that most build guides make very similar recommendations with little variation. Yes, there's going to be some exceptions, but there are some general rules to go by. In general, vitality is the stat that you see people invest the most into. Defense is great, but since you'll always have a chance of being hit no matter how high your defense, well, you want to have enough life to survive a hit. Energy is a stat that is least invested into. Many players consider putting any points into energy a complete waste. Remember, your attribute points, like your skill points, are a limited resource, so rather than spend precious attribute points in energy, you can instead just pop a mana potion to replenish your mana when it's low, and mana potions are effectively a renewable resource. Now that said, at low level, you may want to invest up to 30 points max into energy by the time you hit level 30. This is really only if you're a spellcaster that's really mana dependent and you're really mana thirsty. But when you eventually respec into your endgame build, you will no longer be putting points into energy. More on respec later. Then as for strength and dexterity, well, there's another game mechanic tied to these attributes. Gear requirements. Some items will require a certain amount of strength or dexterity to equip, and higher level items will tend to require more strength and or dexterity. The general guideline here is to get just enough strength and dex to equip the gear that you will want to wear in the endgame. Then you put everything else into vitality. How do you know how much strength and dexterity you need? Well, you either follow a build guide, or you look into the endgame gear yourself and choose what you want, Or as you're leveling, you can just keep some spare points to spend whenever you get a shiny new piece of gear and, oh, I need 5 more strength for that. But here are a couple benchmarks to keep in mind. By Act 2, everyone wants at least 25 strength to be able to equip a heavy belt that lets you carry a lot more potions. By Act 5, it's good to have at least 47 strength in order to equip a kite shield, which will be used as a base for the Ancient's Pledge rune word. Don't worry, we'll explain all of that later. And in general, if you're not an attack-based character, you can probably ignore dexterity altogether. You're unlikely to have gear that will really require dexterity. In general, don't be afraid of having more strength than you need at the moment. At higher level and higher difficulties, there will be higher level gear that needs even more strength. Just don't go overboard by putting like 50 points more than you need. But if you do, well, this takes us to Chapter 3, Respec. Now, attribute and skill points can be hoarded. You never have to spend them. You can keep them as long as you want, but once you've spent them, they are locked in. However, there are a couple conditions in the game under which you can respec or respecialize, meaning you get all your skill points and all your attributes refunded to be reallocated however you want. Firstly, when you complete the first quest in the game in Act 1, Clear the Den of Evil, you unlock a respec that you can access from the NPC priestess Akara. You can do this a total of 3 times, 1 for each of the game's difficulties. The second way to respec is to acquire the Token of Absolution consumable item. You get this by farming 4 rare item drops on Hell difficulty and combining them in the Horadric Cube. You can farm this an unlimited number of times, but if you're at the point where you're even dealing with a Token of Absolution, you're probably not a beginner anymore. It's also worth noting that the Token of Absolution, just like any item in the game, is something that you can trade for with other players, so you technically don't have to farm it yourself if you're willing to trade for it. Now, as a general rule, as long as you have a functional build, it's best not to use up your last respec, be it from a Kara or a Token of Absolution. If you use up your last respec just to optimize your build a bit, you might find yourself in a bad situation later where, oh man, I didn't finish the campaign yet, and now I've hit a wall. I realize my build isn't good, and now I don't have a respec left to fix my build. For instance, a lot of players who don't follow a build guide will hit a wall after completing normal difficulty, and then need to seriously reevaluate their build. So saving that first respec especially could be a really good idea. If you're already thinking of respecking and you're like level 10, you're probably just better off making a new character. One thing to be aware of though, and to look out for, is illusory walls. You think you've hit a wall, but it's actually just because you're fighting monsters that are immune or resistant to your damage. So let's say you're a fire sorceress. Your main damage type is fire. You only deal fire damage, and you're fighting fire immune enemies or fire resistant enemies. Well, yeah, this part's going to be a struggle, but does that mean your whole build is bad? Not necessarily. You might not need to respec. It's possible that if you can just get through this hurdle, the next zone, there won't be any more fire immune enemies, and your build will work perfectly fine. So if you've reached what you suspect might be a false wall, I recommend you go to maxroll.gg, check out the areas section of the website, and it'll tell you what immunities you'll be facing in what zone. So just check, does the next zone have those same immunities or not? And maybe you can struggle through to it. Now, while a respec is generally seen as something that lets you fix your character, expert players actually use respecs proactively to optimize their playthroughs. You see, in general, skills that you unlock later on tend to be better, but you need to get to higher level first to get those skills. So you're faced with this dilemma. Do you optimize for low level, wasting skill points for your endgame build, or do you optimize for your endgame build, sacrificing low-level effectiveness and making you take longer to get to the endgame? Well, thanks to respec, you can get the best of both worlds. And build guides that you find on maxroll.gg will operate that way. They're gonna tell you when to respec to maximize your effectiveness. On to Chapter 4, Difficulty. Alright, so we've mentioned higher difficulties, so let's explain how this all works in Diablo 2. When you start a level 1 character, you're playing on normal difficulty. You have the campaign to play through 5 acts, and once you've beaten it, then you unlock Nightmare difficulty. Once you beat the game on Nightmare, you unlock the final difficulty, Hell. In Diablo 2, the challenges you face do not scale with your level. This applies to playing in the various acts and zones, as well as the different difficulty levels. So when you first leave the town in Act 1 normal and encounter your first monsters, they are level 1 monsters. By the time you're at the end of Act 1, you are facing level 12 monsters. If you reach level 50 and come back to that zone, those monsters will still be level 12. So if you ever feel that you're struggling with the content that you're facing, you can always go back to a previous zone or a previous difficulty and farm up until you get enough more levels and skill points and gear to feel confident in tackling the content that you reached. Now, not only do Nightmare and Hell have higher level monsters, but they often have buffed resistances to different damage types. And speaking of resistances, a major thing you'll notice immediately, or hopefully you will, is that as soon as you go into Nightmare difficulty, all your resistances are reduced by 40. In Hell, they're reduced by a total of 100. Now note that this is just when you are playing on those difficulties. If you made it to Hell and then go back to normal difficulty, you will not have that negative 100 penalty to your resists. It is tied to the difficulty you're playing in, not tied to the progress of your character. Higher difficulties will also increase the size of some zones, and there are a few other changes that are less evident, but the most significant thing for players is to plan for the massive resistance penalties that they'll face. Now, there's something else that affects difficulty, and reward for that matter, and that's the number of players in the game. The challenge scales up with more players, and so does the reward. For every additional player in the game, monsters have more life, more attack rating, and more damage, but they award more experience, and increases the odds of a monster dropping at least one item. Now, if you're playing offline single player, you can actually enter a command to simulate having more players in your game with you. You hit enter, you type /players2, hit enter, and that'll simulate having 2 players in your game. And you can do that up to players 8. 8 is the maximum number of players in a game. So if you're looking for a greater challenge, you could maybe try experimenting with players 3 just to see how that goes. That'll give monsters double their health, but also double their XP. If you do mess with player settings though, it's generally advised that before you take on an act boss, you drop it down to players 1 if you don't want to get wrecked. Now, the best builds in the game at endgame can farm players 8 efficiently. But in general, for optimal play, while it may be tempting to go for, ooh, higher reward, higher XP, let me go higher player count, more drops, the key is efficiency. If you're playing on a higher player setting and struggling through the content, then the extra reward isn't worth the extra time it's taking you to trudge through that content when you can be blitzing through players 1 content so much faster. Yes, in any single run, you're gonna get fewer reward, but you're going to make up for it over time. Another consideration about drops and player settings is that only the odd player numbers, that is 3, 5, and 7, increase your odds of getting items. Technically, it decreases the odds of getting no items, but that's a whole other thing. Basically, it means that playing on players 8 will give you more XP than players 7, but you will not get more items than on players 7. And speaking of items, that takes us to Chapter 5, Items. In Diablo 2, there are different classes of items, which can be identified by the color of their name. Normal items, which are white, magic items, which are blue, rare items, which are yellow, unique items, which are gold, and set items, which are green. You'll also see some gray items, which are normal items that either have sockets or are ethereal. Ethereal items are higher quality items that cannot be repaired. They have lower durability, meaning they'll lose their durability faster, and then once they're broken, that's it, they can no longer be used. Now, it might be natural to think that magic items are better than normal, rares are better than magic, and uniques and sets are better than rare. And while that can hold true as a very, very general rule, things are actually much more complex than that. Every type of item has a specific use in Diablo 2, and is not made obsolete by another tier of item. In the endgame, white, blue, yellow, green, every color of item can be important to you. Magic items are items that can roll with up to 2 magic affixes, such as +8 life or +5 to strength. Rare items roll with either 3 or 4 magic affixes, and while that might make it seem like rares are just better than magic items, Generally, that is true. However, the trade-off is that a magic item has the chance to roll an affix higher than a rare can. For example, the maximum magic find that you can get on a rare ring is 35%. But on a magic ring, it's 40%. As for unique items, they're not at all like legendaries in Diablo 3. A unique item is a specific item that always rolls specific affixes. The number of that affix may change. It might roll on a range like 5 to 10 strength, but the item always has those same specific affixes. For example here, the Tarn Helm will always have +1 to all skills. It'll always have 75% extra gold from monsters, and then it'll also always have somewhere between 25% and 50% to magic find. So you might get one Tarn Helm to drop that'll have 26%, another one drops that has 49%, but a Tarn Helm will always have magic find, and those other properties will always be exactly the same. So when you do find a unique, it may prove to be a huge upgrade for you, or it might not really be something that fits your build. Sets are similar. Sets are basically specific unique items that, when equipped along with other specific unique items, give you additional bonuses. In general, most sets have one or more partial set bonuses for having only some of the set, and then a complete set bonus for wearing the entire set. And endgame characters in Diablo 2 will not necessarily be equipped solely in set and unique items, but rather a combination of unique or set, rare, maybe even some magic items, but also rune word items. Remember how we said that every type of item has a specific use? Well, that applies to normal items as well. And normal items are the only types of items on which you can create rune words, which can result in some of the most powerful items in the game. More on rune words in a bit though, because first, a quick primer on sockets. Your helm, your chest, and your main hand and offhand items can have sockets in them, in which you can insert gems, runes, or jewels. Gems come in a few different flavors, like sapphire or ruby, and also in different quality tiers. For instance, you go from a chipped sapphire, the worst quality, all the way up to a perfect sapphire, the best quality. Each type of gem or flavor provides a different kind of bonus, and the higher quality that gem, the higher the specific bonus. Depending on where you socket the gem, be it in your weapon, armor, or shield, it'll also provide a different bonus. Now, jewels are items that can drop as either rare or magic, thus possessing affixes, and when you insert that jewel into a socket, you then benefit from those affixes, assuming you're wearing the piece of gear. Then runes are the third type of socketable. There are 33 different runes, and each rune provides a specific bonus when socketed into gear. Like gems, runes can give different benefits depending on whether you insert them into a weapon, armor, or shield. However, unlike gems, runes can be used to craft rune words, which we'll cover in our next chapter. But first, some general gearing advice. Resistances in Diablo 2 are important to stack, especially starting in Nightmare difficulty. You have a resistance score for fire, cold, lightning, and poison damage. Your score represents what percentage of damage of that type you ignore. 50% fire resistance means you ignore half of all the fire damage you take. Resistances are naturally capped at 75, meaning even if you have 120% fire resistance, you still only have 75 effective fire resistance. However, some skills or items will eventually let you raise your resistance cap, but you can never go above 95%. Throughout normal difficulty, you don't need to worry too much about your resists, but they become very important by Nightmare. You want to aim to keep your cold, fire, and lightning resistances at or near their 75% cap. Poison resistance isn't as important to stack, partially because there's some broken mechanics around poison that render poison resistance basically obsolete, but also because keeping an antidote potion on you at all times just will cancel out a poison. As soon as you get poison, pop the antidote, you're no longer poisoned. Similarly, keeping a thawing potion on you at all times will allow you to get out of freeze effects applied to your character. And a stamina potion, as we said, will give you infinite stamina. It's generally a good idea to keep one of each of these potions in your inventory at all times. Now, not only do thawing potions and antidote potions remove freeze and poison effects, respectively, but an antidote potion will buff your poison resistance by 50 and increase your max poison resistance by 10 for 30 seconds, with a thawing potion doing the same thing for cold. You can also drink multiple potions to have their durations, but not effects, stack. So 30 seconds, you take that potion 4 times, it's now going to last you 2 minutes. And the same thing applies to stamina potions. So if you know you're about to go into a fight that can really benefit from a certain resistance, buy and pop a few of those potions real quick in town. For instance, grab those thawing potions before fighting Duriel. And if you don't know who Duriel is, well, you're going to have a fun time finding out. Now, while you might be inclined to just look for drops, you shouldn't undervalue shopping around in town. Look at the vendors and see what they're selling. It could be a good place to find gear that'll help max out your resists. Boots, gloves, belts, helmets are things that you can shop for that might fill in those resists. Other affixes worth getting would be faster run walk on boots, attack speed on gloves if and only if you're an attack character, plus life is always nice to have, plus mana if you're a caster suffering from mana issues, and magic find is just always great to fit in wherever you can so that you can find better gear. Now if you're having trouble getting those resists up, if you need some help, you can also use the Ort, Ral, and Thul runes, if you have gear with sockets, to give you some pretty solid lightning, fire, or cold resistance respectively. If you find any items that grant you plus to all skills or plus to skills you're using, these are immensely useful. And outside of that, the affixes that you're looking for exactly on every piece of gear will be quite dependent on your build. And if you're getting unlucky and you can't find the items that you want or need, well, you can always trade with other players. In Diablo 2, no items are bound, meaning any item can be given for free or traded, and in-game loot is shared. The loot that you see is the same loot that everyone else sees, and anyone can grab it. If you're looking to get seriously into trading, the currency that you can farm in order to trade would not be gold, but actually high-level runes. Runes starting at Lem and higher are considered valuable. And speaking of runes, that finally takes us to Chapter 6, Rune Words. Not only do runes have inherent properties, but you can combine multiple runes to form rune words that let you basically build a unique item. Now you can't just put any runes together however you want in any items. There are specific recipes that must be followed to produce a specific rune word. You can find a recipe for all available rune words on maxroll.gg, but the common factor here is that they each consist of runes that must be inserted into sockets in a specific order and might require a specific base item. So if a rune word requires 2 runes, you need an item that has 2 sockets. You can't put it in an item with 3 sockets. It has to be 2 sockets. And again, depending on the rune word, it sometimes might require a specific type of item, like a specific, it could be a helm or a specific type of weapon. So let's look at, for instance, the stealth rune word. That requires the runes Tal and Eth, in that order, and the base item must be a body armor piece. Because this is a 2-socket rune word, we need 2 sockets in the armor, and the base item for the rune word must be a normal item. It cannot be magic or rare or unique. Once you've inserted the runes, you've created the rune word. And the item now gains the rune word's properties in addition to the individual properties of the runes you inserted. So a stealth rune word would give you all the affixes that you're seeing here. There are a lot of rune words in the game. Some are low level, some are high level, some are easy to farm, some are difficult to farm. We'll highlight now some starter rune words that you can go for that are powerful and not too difficult to put together. The first would be the one that we just mentioned, stealth. This rune word is so good that even though it's a pretty beginner rune word, it can be endgame viable. In the endgame, you would just put these same runes in a higher level armor. The 25% faster run walk, 25% faster cast rate, and 25% hit recovery are really powerful. Hit recovery affects how long you're stunned whenever you take a hit, and the cast rate is really good for casters. Another one is a lore helm. This gives you +1 to all skills, which is always welcome. Though you will need to reach Nightmare to get this, or to farm it relatively easily. The best way to farm runes is by killing the Countess in Act 1 over and over and over again, and on normal difficulty she can drop up to Rawl runes, so some of these rune words will require you to reach Nightmare Countess to farm. The Ancient's Pledge rune word will create an excellent defensive shield for you. With it, you can a lot more easily hit your resistance caps. Any attacker that can work a shield into their build, or any caster, can benefit tremendously from the Ancient's Pledge, and it can be useful all the way into Hell difficulty. Casters will eventually want to swap out an Ancient's Pledge for a Spirit Shield, with its +2 to all skills and up to 35% faster cast rate and 55% hit recovery, but that's further down the line. And the beauty of the Spirit Rune Word is that you can also create it on a sword. So many builds that you're going to see will eventually want to use dual spirits in your main hand and your offhand. If you're a melee character, a Rhyme Shield can be a lifesaver. It makes it so that you cannot be frozen, because being frozen in the middle of a pack of monsters is often a death sentence. If your main damage source is a fire spell, generally meaning you're a sorceress, a druid, or an assassin with fire traps, you can benefit tremendously from the Leaf Staff. Just 2 runes give you +3 to fire skills, as well as +3 to 3 different sorceress skills, which makes most people think this is just for sorceresses, but that +3 to fire skills is cross-class. Now you may see some expert players running with or recommending a Nadir Helm, which is easy to put together and gives you access to the Cloak of Shadows spell, which applies a blind effect to enemies, and it's incredibly powerful to use at low levels, but it's a bit of an advanced tactic and we're not going to recommend it for beginners. You can't go wrong with a Lore Helm. Smoke Armor is good to make for a mercenary, +50 to all resistances will help keep your mercenary alive. And if you can't afford making yourself a stealth, you can always wear the smoke until you can make yourself a stealth and then pass the smoke on to your mercenary. If you're a melee character, you can make the Steel Rune Word, which you apply on either an axe, a mace, or a sword at low level, and you gain a 50% chance to inflict open wounds, which will make the enemy lose health for 8 seconds, and this stacks with every successful open wound hit, so that's pretty powerful. Then the upgrade from that would be a Malice Rune Word. You can put that on any melee weapon and it gives you a 100% chance of open wounds, meaning every hit will inflict that effect. Then Strength is a rune word that you can put again onto any melee weapon that grants a 25% chance of Crushing Blow. Crushing Blow is a really powerful effect because it removes a percentage of an enemy's health, regardless of how much life the enemy has. With a melee weapon against normal enemies, Crushing Blow takes off 25% of a creature's health with every hit, or 12.5% health against a champion, unique, or boss monster. Now note that this is a percentage of current health, not of maximum health, so Crushing Blow is most useful at the start of a fight, with diminishing returns after every subsequent attack, but still very powerful. This is also a really good item to put on an Act 2 mercenary. If you don't use the item yourself, put it on your mercenary, or if you're not a character who can benefit from using it. If you're a caster, put it on your mercenary. Act 2 mercenary would require a spear class weapon, and this allows your mercenary to be a significant source of damage. Lastly, the Black Rune Word has requirements that are a bit higher. You'll need to reach Nightmare most likely, but it's incredibly powerful. You can put it into a club, hammer, or mace, and it gives a 40% chance of Crushing Blow. There are, of course, plenty of other rune words and much more advanced ones, and you can find all of them on maxroll.gg. That takes us to Chapter 7, The Cube.
Ah, you've got quite a treasure there in that Herodric cube.
The cube is an item you'll pick up as part of a quest in Act 2, and it'll become an invaluable tool for you. By placing specific recipes of items inside of it and hitting the transmute button, you can craft an array of different items. Outside of crafting, the cube is something that many players simply carry with them all the time in their inventory, because while it takes up a 2x2 space in your inventory, you can open it up and it holds more space than it takes up, so that's a life hack to actually carry more loot with you. When you're not using the cube, simply use it for extra storage space. Now, as for cube recipes, there are a couple quest-related ones that will introduce you to the basics of using the cube. Outside of that, there's a whole lot of recipes, we're not going to go through them all, but some of the most basic recipes you'll be using early on will be upgrading your gems. If you insert 3 gems of the same type, of the same quality, and hit transmute, you'll get 1 gem of the higher quality tier. Similarly, if you insert 3 identical runes, then you hit transmute, you'll get 1 rune of the next level. Up to a point. Once you reach Thal runes, you'll need to start adding a specific gem to get the next highest rune, and this continues upward with steeper requirements for the more precious runes. Again, you can reference maxroll.gg for the full list of recipes once you get to that point. You can also craft rejuvenation potions by inserting 3 healing potions of any quality, 3 mana potions of any quality, plus a chipped gem. Health potions restore a certain amount of health. Mana potions restore a certain amount of mana. Rejuvenation potions restore health and mana based on percentage. They will instantly restore 35% of your life and mana. And then if you cube 3 rejuvenation potions, you get a full rejuvenation potion, which when you drink will instantly give you back all your life and all your mana. Now, a recipe that can be fun to play around with is if you have 3 magic rings that you don't need, pop them in there, hit transmute, you'll get a random magic amulet, and vice versa. 3 amulets will get you 1 ring. Another recipe that everyone should know is combining Wirt's Leg, which you get from Tristram, with a Tome of Town portal to open a portal to the Secret Cow level. Then a lot of the other recipes will use gems and runes to add sockets to items, upgrade items, craft new items. Again, Maxwell.gg has all these recipes, but as a beginner, you don't really need to fuss with that. On to Chapter 8, Mercenaries. In Diablo 2, you can either hire a mercenary, or if you don't already have one, certain quests will reward you with one for free. In Diablo 2, mercenaries can be a very powerful part of your build, and you keep your mercenary with you in multiplayer games. Mercenaries can be equipped with items to increase their power and their survivability, and you can even feed them healing potions when they're low on health. When a mercenary dies, you can revive it for a fee. Every town hub has a specific NPC at which you can resurrect your mercenary. 4 of the 5 acts in the game have mercenaries that you can hire, giving us 4 base mercenary types. Each base mercenary type can equip different weapon types and has access to different skills. So for example, in Act 1, the mercenary is a rogue who can equip a bow, whereas the Act 5 mercenary gives you a melee barbarian. Within these base types, there are different mercenary subtypes. For instance, that rogue can either be a fire variant or a cold variant. So it'll either shoot a fire arrow for high damage or a cold arrow that'll freeze enemies. Now, if you ever hire a new mercenary, it will replace your existing mercenary, and any gear on that mercenary, bye-bye, gone forever. So generally, you strip your mercenary before buying a replacement. Now, while you are, of course, free to use any mercenary you'd like to, most endgame builds in Diablo 2 will use only a few of the mercenary types. The Act 2 mercenary is the most commonly used mercenary because he emits a paladin aura that will buff your character. There are 3 subtypes of Act 2 mercenary: combat, defensive, and offensive. And then each subtype will emit a different aura depending on what game difficulty you hired him in. So, normal, nightmare, and hell, giving a total of 9 variants for the Act 2 mercenary. If you're a character that relies on attacks as opposed to spells as your main source of damage, then the normal difficulty Act 2 offensive mercenary will give you Blessed Aim, which will increase your attack rating, thus letting you hit a lot more often. Eventually though, you'll outgrow this mercenary, but it's a great low-level choice for attack characters. Otherwise, many builds go for the Nightmare difficulty Act 2 offensive mercenary, which gives the Might aura, a big damage buffing aura. But he can be difficult to keep alive without the right gear. An alternative is the Nightmare Act 2 defensive mercenary. He has this amazing Holy Freeze aura that just freezes all enemies on screen. And because his crowd control is so powerful, well, he's the best utility mercenary you can get. And he's the easiest to keep alive because frozen enemies aren't a huge threat to you or him. Act 2 mercenaries are also able to equip polearms with the Insight rune word in them. And this is a rune word that is an incredible source of mana recovery. Also worth mentioning that Act 1 mercenaries are able to equip the Faith rune word, which gives a huge buff to attack builds. Alright, on to Chapter 9, Death. It happened, you died. Different games have different penalties for death, so what happens in D2? Well, first off, you respawn in town, naked. Not literally, but you don't have any of your gear on you anymore. That gear is on your corpse, which is located wherever you died. So if you want to get your gear back, well, you're gonna have to bring your naked butt over to your corpse. Now don't worry, only you can loot your corpse. No one can steal the items off your corpse's body. Now this is why players will tend to open town portals before going into known dangerous situations, or they'll just open them periodically, just so that if they die, there's a town portal nearby. You don't have to trek all the way from the waypoint, or worse, from town. Now, when you die, you do drop your gear. For whatever reason, you don't drop the items that are held in your inventory. Also, if you had potions in your belt, those potions get shoved into your inventory as long as there is space for them. If there is not space, then those potions drop on the ground near your corpse. Also, whenever you die, your mercenary also dies and needs to be revived for a fee. If you have any summons, like you're a necromancer with skeletons, they die and need to be resummoned. If you had any buffs, they expire. Now, sometimes getting your corpse back is easy. Other times you may die over and over again trying to get that corpse back. Maybe you'll be tempted to put on some gear in order to survive long enough to retrieve your corpse. Here's the thing. Every time you die, you leave behind a corpse. Not just the first time. And if you die more than 15 times before retrieving your first corpse, well, on your 16th death, your original corpse will now pop and drop all the gear that it had equipped, meaning it's now on the ground and anyone can grab it. It also means that once that gear is popped, if you leave the game and the game closes, boom, that gear is gone forever. That's why if you think that retrieving your corpse will be difficult, it's often better to just leave the game and remake. Rejoin a new game, load back into game. This causes your corpse to just respawn in town with you, with all the gear that was on it. Anything that was dropped will disappear, but gear on the corpse will still be there. However, there's another thing to be aware of, and another reason why breaking your head to retrieve your corpse is often not a good idea, is that if you put on gear to go retrieve your corpse, and then you die, imagine you have multiple corpses now with different gear on them. When you leave game and come back in, only one of your corpses will respawn in town. If you have 10 corpses, only one will respawn in town. And it won't necessarily be your first corpse. The game will calculate the gold value of everything that corpse has equipped, and it'll pick the highest gold value corpse to respawn in town with you. Any other corpses are lost, along with whatever gear they had. Now, that's not all that happens when you die. You also experience a couple penalties for dying. First off, you lose gold. If you're at least level 21, some fraction of your total gold in your stash and your inventory will just poof, disappear. If after this you still have gold left in your inventory, then no matter what level you are, the gold in your inventory will drop to the ground by your corpse. And again, anyone can pick it up then. That's why it's generally a good idea to stash your gold rather than keep it all on you at all times. This way, if you have to leave game in order to respawn your corpse, you don't lose all the gold that you dropped. Now, if you're playing on Nightmare or Hell difficulty, you will also lose experience when you die. In Nightmare, you lose 5% of the experience needed to reach the next level. So if you're level 79, then you will lose 5% of the XP needed to reach level 80. In Hell, it's 10%. Now, you can never lose a level. Your XP can never drop below the minimum required for the level that you are. But still, when you're over level 90, a few deaths can undo a huge amount of grind. However, if you retrieve your corpse without leaving the game, you will regain 75% of the XP you lost due to dying. You gain this back when you grab your corpse, so the risk is yours to take. Now, if you've selected to play a hardcore character, then, well, you don't really have to worry about any of this. When you die, your character's dead forever. If you are in a multiplayer party, then a party mate will be able to loot your corpse so long as you stay in the game, meaning whatever gear you had equipped, your party member or members will be able to grab those items off your body. Whatever was in your inventory, however, is lost forever. And if you leave game, your corpse and whatever items were on it will disappear forever. On to Chapter 10, Builds. Alright, we're getting close to being ready to play here, but what class do you pick? What build do you go for? I would encourage first-time players to just try out whatever they think is gonna be fun. Without following a build guide, you should be able to eventually manage to beat the game on normal at least. Once you get to Nightmare, you might start to struggle enough that, maybe you'll even hit a wall that at that point you'll want to make a more optimized character. And again, maxroll.gg has you covered with all the best build guides you'll ever need. So that said, once you're ready to make the most optimal starter character choice, The Sorceress is a really good option and will be the #1 thing that we recommend here. Because she is a caster, she is less gear dependent than attack builds. Remember, a level 20 Fireball does the same amount of damage whether you're wielding a weapon or not. Also, you're a more ranged character, so it's easier to avoid taking damage. You don't need to rely on really good gear to keep you alive in melee. And also the Sorceress has arguably the best skill in the game, Teleport. It's the best mobility skill, and it's such a great skill that many other builds will invest into getting gear that grants them the Teleport skill. As for specifically what Sorceress build to run, Blizzard is a solid option. You only acquire Blizzard later in the game, however, so you'll be starting off with probably a different skill as your main damage source, something like Fireball, before eventually
Hey Cat, are you still around?
Again, you can find the build guides for all.
I am back from my dinner break. If you are still here, we can chat. Aww. How are you doing, Kat? Thanks for waiting through the break. Let's see. I want... It's going well, so can you hear me over the music? I should probably turn the music down a little bit. That's the wrong one. Can you hear me okay? Okay, cool. Well, actually, the music is down at the moment. Sometimes people tell me that they can't hear the music at all. And sometimes people tell me it's too loud. Alright. So, you said you don't know a lot about Diablo, or Diablo 2. So with Diablo 2, there are multiple ways to play. You can play online, you can play offline. And then you can play softcore and you can play hardcore. And hardcore means what it typically does. You die once, and then that's it. Like, you don't get any do-overs. And when you play offline, when you play online with groups of people, the more people in the group, the monsters get harder, but you get a lot more experience. You get a lot better chance of finding magic items. You get you get more gold. Everything goes up the more people that there are in the group. And so there's a way online. There's a way offline, rather, to play and simulate having a ton of people in a party, except it's just you by yourself. And so it's the /players command, And hold on. I'm reading what you said. Yeah. So the more that I have played this game, the more nuts I have gotten, especially with this. Yeah. Especially with this build, I like my Wind Druid. So I'm playing on hardcore, and I am playing with simulated 8 players, which you can see right. Oh, you can't actually see it because of the camera. But if I keep doing that, now you can see it says players 8, players set to 8. So I'm actually playing on hardcore with the game simulating there being 8 players in the game, and it's just me. So, very hard. There are 3 difficulties to Diablo 2. There's normal, there's nightmare, and there's hell. And it's the same game 3 times. It gets a little harder each time, and they change a couple of things, but it's generally the same game, just super hard. And so, this is Nightmare, as evidenced up there. And this is the very end of Nightmare. So this is the last level. And we're trying to see if I can make it into Hell, doing full-on hardcore players 8. Actually what I want. Level 2. Level 2, there's a way shrine. If I can get to the way shrine. Ooh. So those little guys that you just see, they corpse explode. And they actually are what killed my first hardcore character. I've only played this game hardcore twice. This is my second time trying. And so that was painful when it killed me the first time. They killed me. I got to hell mode, and I got to a map where I just died. I needlessly died, but I panicked. Oops. Oh, those guys hurt. Alright, let's How did your Sims playing go the other night? If you want to drop a link to your stream in here, I post my broadcasts on YouTube when I'm done. So, and I have more people watch my YouTube videos than my stream. So if you pop your link on, they'll see your link and they can watch you. I played The Sims 3, I think. I really liked The Sims 3. I hated that EA dismantled them. I really loved Maxis. They had some really innovative gameplay. It makes me sad. Always happy to help you out, Kat. You're good people. You deserve the best in life. You may get to watch me die. Because the final boss is no joke. When you're not playing Players 8. Oops, oops, oops. Ow. Stop hitting me. Go corpse explode someone else. Leave me alone. No. Because everything in this game is RNG based, you can also get different monster types on maps. So like the corpse explodey guys, some players, if they get a roll, a monster roll that they don't like, they'll just reset the map and hope that they don't get those monsters next time. There is one type of monster that I will reset, but I won't right now. Shoot, I did that, didn't I? Scheiße. It's that one. Did I really do that? that one. Could do that one. Yeah, it's just bad. Still.
Not in town.
Alright. Okay, it's not this way. Yeah, I went up a level. Well, that's what I'm looking for, is the way down. The skiller. No, that's not the one. I need lots of rejuves. I also need lots of rejuves. Hey, let's get some more power. The amount of health I have is actually okay. When this game came out, everything was like grid-based. And so throwing a tornado is not as simple. So like I'm pointing in a specific direction, but they don't always go that way. And they move on a grid. It's real weird. It's the only thing I don't like about this game. So, the final boss in this area, if you stand idle in one place for too long, he will randomly attack you. Like he'll put a curse on you, or he poisoned me a second ago. When that laugh happens, he's watching you. He's waiting for you to show up. He's getting bored. And so, he'll curse you, hit you. A few minutes ago, he just took out my all these extra monsters, like when the player count goes up, the monster density goes up. Routes here at Tulsa. I need. Oh, that's... Alright.
Not in town.
Besting. Evening.
Not in town.
I knew that.
Greetings.
I think we'll call it a night there. That was fantastic to get through.